statues that came alive. It was a dark, moonless night. Only occasional flashes of lightning lit up the somber scene and caused an eerie dance of jerky and frightening shadows in the cremation ground. Occasionally, the silence was broken by the unearthly howling of jackals and laughter of evil spirits. But nothing could daunt the intrepid King Vikram. Once again, he made his way to the old gnarled tree where the corpse was hanging. A skull crunched under his feet, and a screeching ghost rose from the dust in shuddering frenzy. Unperturbed, he reached the tree and brought down the corpse. Slinging it on his shoulder, he had begun his return journey when the vampire that possessed the corpse said, "O king, I fail to understand why you have embarked on this hazardous venture. You appear to have forgotten even the responsibilities you bear towards your subjects and kingdom. Maybe you expect some big gains from this endeavor, but be careful lest you lose the hard won fruits of victory by your own reckless action." This was what happened to Manohar. Listen to his story. The vampire then narrated the following tale. Long ago, King Veeravardhana ruled the kingdom of Shonapuri. He was a vassal of the emperor of Kanakagiri. Veeravardhana was an ardent devotee of his family deity Chennakesava. One day, the king rode out into the forest bordering his kingdom for hunting. He was coming to this area for the first time, and the verdant beauty of the place enchanted him. The mountain peaks that proudly raised their heads amid the lush green woods, the river that snaked its way through the valleys, all added to the nature's magic. Tired out from the exertions of the morning, the king lay down to rest in the shade of a tree. As he dozed off, he had a dream in which Lord Chennakesava appeared and said, "Listen, O king, once upon a time my temple stood on the tallest peak of this mountain. But over the centuries, it fell into ruin and disuse, and today no one even remembers it. A banyan tree stands to the west of the ruined shrine. If you dug under it, you will unearth an idol of mine. Take it out and build a new temple atop the peak, enshrining the idol. This will bring prosperity to you and your kingdom. Entrust the task of building the temple to sculptor Manohar of Uttampur village." Waking up from his dream, the king was elated and decided to carry out the divine order without delay. On returning to his capital, he immediately sent for Manohar and ordered him to commence the task of building the temple. The mammoth task of temple construction began. The idol was found at the spot where the Lord had said it would be. However, building the temple turned out to be a much costlier exercise than the king had originally envisaged. Soon, the royal treasury was empty. There was no money to pay the annual tribute due to the emperor of Kanakagiri. That was the time when the old emperor had died and his son Dhirasena ascended the throne. Unlike his father, Dhirasena was a tyrant who was eager to amass more wealth. The vassals' tributes were increased and Veervardhana was ordered to clear all the arrears of payment at once. Veervardhana met the young emperor and informed him of his inability to make the payment. Dhirasena was furious. He decided to annex Shonapuri to his empire and sent out a huge army to invade the small kingdom. On reaching Shonapuri's borders, the invading army came across the newly built temple on the mountain. The commander declared, "It is this temple that is the cause of all the trouble. Pull it down forthwith." Obeying his order, the soldiers scaled the peak and reached the temple. The stone sentinels outside were so perfectly carved and lifelike that they could not take their eyes off them. Eventually, just as they had steeled themselves to the task on hand and raised their weapons to demolish the temple, a miracle happened. The eyes of statues were seen to fill with tears. The soldiers became panicky. Fearing that something untoward was going to happen, they abandoned their effort and beat a hasty retreat down the mountain. When Dhirasena was informed of what had happened, he too became afraid of the evil omen and recalled his army. The people of Shonapuri rejoiced at the miracle that had saved their kingdom. All praised the sculptor who had wrought such magic. But King Veervardhana summoned Manohar and chided him. "What kind of sculptor are you? You should have created statues that would use their swords to fight the invader instead of shedding tears. If only your statues had come to life and cut down the enemy, we would not be facing humiliation today." Manohar did not say a word in reply. The next day, he returned to the mountain and commenced work on a 10,000 pillared building. On each pillar, he carved with superlative craftsmanship the figure of an armed horseman with sword raised, ready to strike. He used up all his reward money in the construction and raised funds through donations when this was exhausted. When the work was completed, he took King Veervardhana to the structure and said, "Sir, now we need fear none. We can be independent." The king was elated. He promptly issued a public proclamation that Shonapuri was henceforth independent of Kanakagiri. Soon the news reached Dhirasena, who sent a huge army to subdue the arrogant vassal. As the battle was going on, Manohar climbed up the mountain to the structure he had built. With a magic wand, he touched each statue, commanding, "Come to life, join the battle and bring victory to our king." The mounted warriors sprang to life. They joined the battle and fought fiercely on the side of Shonapuri. Soon the powerful army of Kanakagiri was routed. Veervardhana was a proud victor. The overjoyed king decided to have a grand ceremony in honor of Manohar, the sculptor, who had brought about the victory. But Manohar was nowhere to be found. Search parties were sent in various directions to look for him, but to no avail. He had evidently left the kingdom. Having concluded his story, the vampire turned to Vikram and asked, O king, isn't Manohar's behavior most peculiar? He was either a fool or a very arrogant fellow. Because of his magical ability, he was the architect of Veervardhana's victory, yet he denied himself the honor and reward that were his due. Why? Answer me if you can. If you keep quiet despite knowing the answer, your head shall shatter into 1,000 fragments. King Vikram calmly answered, Manohar was neither foolish nor arrogant. He was so talented that the post of royal sculptor came to him without his seeking it. His creations were masterpieces of art, so much so the gods, impressed by his skill and sincerity, endowed them with life. But the king did not honor him properly. Instead of lauding his extraordinary talent, he wanted to misuse it for his own selfish interest. Every artist craves for recognition, and Manohar was no exception. So, he was deeply saddened by the king's reaction. But he did not show it and instead decided to use his talents for a noble purpose, that is, the liberation of his homeland. By creating statues of warriors and bringing them to life, he ensured Shonapuri's victory. Finally, there was a very good reason why he left the kingdom. The king had commanded him to breathe life into the stone warriors to defend the country. As this was justified, he complied. But who can say that the same king, driven by greed, would not command him tomorrow to create a wish fulfilling tree or some other magical object? Manohar's job was to create stone sculptures, and he was very good at this. As for creating living beings, that is the job of Lord Brahma, the divine creator. When one takes up a task that is beyond his ability, no matter how superlative an artist he is, at some point he will fail. Manohar foresaw all this, and that is why, having fulfilled his original purpose, he slipped away. No sooner had King Vikram concluded his speech than the Vetala gave him the slip once again and reached the peepal tree. Thank you very much.